What I'm going to talk about is attract and retain talent, think inside out. And I'm going to look a little bit from the Dutch perspective. Normally I don't do that because Leadership Academy Amsterdam is an international company. And we normally spoken only work for international companies and never work in the Netherlands. But I like to start with a small summary of an article which was published in the newspaper this week, in the Dutch financial newspaper. And the title of the article was How to Prevent That People Start Job Hopping. In the Netherlands currently, this is very hot. Because out of the 100 jobless people, 126 vacancies are available. So 100 people are when you take 100 people jobless, 126 vacancy. So there is no unemployment at all. There is of course some unemployment of people who move jobs and who have very special wishes, but in general there are more vacancies than there are people available. 1 out of 3 people consider to change their job. 1 out of 3. So imagine that in your company or in your organization, 1 out of 3 people is actively searching for another job. This is quite a movement in the labor market. When you then look from the employer perspective, only 35% of the employers take measures to close what I call the back door. So the outflow of people is hardly taken in consideration. Only 1/3 of companies is working actively with outflow. Of course, everybody's working to recruit people, but what you quite often see, and I see it also with my clients, they're very active in recruiting new people, but they don't close the back door. So they got an enormous staff turnover going to their company. Then only 50% of the employers consider to give a pay rise. A pay rise, in my opinion, is not a solution, but it's more, let me say, a measurement in times of you have very much troubles. And more than 50% of employees say that their boss is not considering to do anything about their personal or about their professional development. So looking at this situation, you could say that the theme you are talking about is basically also a theme which is much more present in other European markets. And that is where we're going to talk about. So before I start, and you know, I'm always a little bit theoretical, but I like to start it. What is talent? Because who is seen as talent in an organization? And I think this definition is important for us to have in order to know where we talk about. So talent is certain employees, managers who have special above average skills or abilities. I know that in a lot of companies there's a lot of discussion if you have a talent program, who should be part of it. But this is, I think, a very basic definition, which is easy to use. So certain employees who have special above average skills or abilities. And why are they so important? Because when I'm out with my clients always talk, oh, we have to keep the talent, we have to recruit talent, we need to have talent. And sometimes I think, yeah, but there are so many people working in your companies. Why are you focusing on those last talented people? There's a good reason for that. Because superior talent is up to 8 times more productive. They're up to 8 times more productive. They are minimum 2 times more productive than normal employees. But superior talent even is 8 times more productive. So if you have this definition of talent, I think it is very clear why we need talent and why we need to keep them on board. We need to recruit them. That's not where I'm going to talk about today, but we have to keep them on board. I like to pick your brain a bit because you might be sitting in your office. In the meantime, you answer an email, you take a cup of coffee, but I invite you to help me a bit. So please go to Mentimeter and give the elements you think are mostly valued by top talents in general. So what are the elements top talents mostly value? So please use the scan the code or go to menti.com and use the entrance code 21601772, and let's together have a look what you think are the elements mostly valued by top talent. Yeah, so please take your phone, scan the code, and I, in the meantime, will open the word cloud we are building together. Yeah, you got for that 3 minutes, and the 3 minutes start now. And please start typing. Yeah, the first one, thank you very much. Oh, people are very fast. Thank you, thank you. Keep on sending, please. Yeah, 1 minute left. Great, great input. And it seems that flexibility and seriousness is winning. Communication, recognition. Yeah, please send your last input. We're going to close in a few seconds. Okay, you can keep on sending, that is no problem. I don't close it. And I'm sure that we will take care that the outcome will also be sent to you so you can see what you have made. You did a fantastic job. You talked about flexibility, and flexibility is in the middle. And flexibility, it is, if I look at this newspaper and this last investigation, there are two things which stood out for a lot of people. And that's what was stood out. People wanted to work 4 days a week, and people want to work at flexible times. And that may be that in the current corona crisis we're in the COVID-19 crisis, we see that people start working much more flexible. And that is that's giving a lot of satisfaction. People take a very responsible role and they want to take it. It's not that you have to give it to them, they want to take it themselves. They take responsibility for that, their job is executed very well, but they probably do it at times which suit them best. They also want to take care of their family in the meantime, and I think a lot of you would recognize that. I see recognition, communication, typical leadership elements. Seriousness, yeah, unfortunately we cannot have a direct communication, but I would say I would be curious when you write in the chat box what you mean by that, because I take for granted that that people are very serious and that companies are very serious. See performance of company, people have to put performance. But there are also a lot of things which has to do with personal development, opportunity to contribute, independent in decision, encouragement. So you see leadership elements and elements of personal development. So let's have a look. What I have for you is that McKinsey also measured the outcome of this question. So they measured it with 500 people around the world. At the first place, that the element appreciated by 89% is great leaders. You take a job because of the content and the challenge. You leave your job because of your boss. And I think some of us might recognize that in times you change jobs, your relationship with your boss was not the best. So great leaders are for almost 90% of the people the most important element. And their boss should be inspirational, supportive, empowering, and focused on development. Are your managers really doing that? And this is closing the back door I'm talking about. Closing the back door that the top talent doesn't leave. They want to work for a great company with good reputation, with strong values, with a good culture, with business results and contribution to society. And I know there are certain sectors who are struggling here, but I think this is something which is super important. And it is no secret that companies who don't have a good contribution to society are struggling to get talent in, but also a lot of their talent leave. They want to have a great job, and that speaks for itself, interesting, but also with opportunities to grow and involvement with impact and meaning. And 76% is a great remuneration and a great rewards. So wages, benefit and perks, non-financial forms of recognition. And that's of course typical. Only 2/3 of the people put that. All the three elements on the left side, they are seen as more important. Of course, we should have great rewards, but I know from experience working in retail, working for IKEA in Spain and Portugal, that rewards were not the secret of our success, that people didn't move jobs. It was in the end, being a great company and trying to develop great leaders. So this is the measured outcome, and congratulations to you, because you, with your input, you basically came with the same. And then let's go to the think inside out. And I have to move this one. Yeah, that is here. Okay, so inside out, what does it mean for me? When you approach this challenge, think inside out. And inside out, what I mean with this model here is that and this is a model, I will explain later how we use it, but that if you develop and learn your people, and I'm not talking about only the leaders in the company, I'm also talking about the staff who doesn't lead any other people. You start always with leading self. And I invite you, when you think about your strategy for attracting and retaining talent, to start with leading self. Develop your people. And I think that also what I read in the presentation from Beatrice, although I didn't understand it, but I read skills for life. Your people all want to have skills for life. That is development you can offer. And these are skills for life, are not connected to the company. Of course, they help in your job, but they also help in life. And that is where we said, if you talk about leadership, that's even for people who don't lead other people, leadership is personal. The second step, and there is where we come much more to people who lead team, It's all about relationship. The conversation is the relationship. So we have to learn people to set up these conversations. Then you go to leading more than one team, inspiring your team with a vision, working from a team, giving the people the authority to move towards this vision, this light in the horizon, and you start working to an adult engagement. And then last but not least, leading the total organization, create an organizational spirit by connecting and collaborating. But inside out for me is to close the back door, but also in the end that will work to become more attractive as employer. Let your people lead themselves. And now you think, yeah, this guy, what's he throwing in? Yeah, what does it concretely mean? And I am so egoistic to explain to you how do we approach that with our clients, because our clients, if we gain a new client, we always start with leading self. And this 2-day workshop we have for that is giving in general the employer a reduction of staff turnover, and on the other hand, what we see is a raise of engagement of the people. And let me show you what we exactly do with people here. Let me move the box. Yeah. So what we do is we in a 2-day workshop, what we call a leading self workshop, which will have what we say 80% of the aimed effect. So higher employment engagement, and with that creating more loyalty towards the company, and with that closing the back door, as I call it. But you also get a much better mouth-to-mouth reputation in the market. That workshop works as follows. It starts with facts, where we ask all the participants to create their own lifeline. And it's simple, plotting the high and low events in their life, and by connecting them you get a lifeline. So we get people to look backwards. But what we will do at the same time, we will ask the participants to share this with another colleague. And what's more important, we will ask one of the top managers to share with the whole group, and the groups are in between 30 and 100 people, to share with the whole group their personal lifeline. So also the top management shows that it is okay to work on personal things. So that's where we start. We start looking backwards, then we look at insights. So looking at this lifeline with all the events in our life, and these events are not a CV, these events are personal events. We look at insights so that you understand, based on your lifeline, what kind of habits and patterns have I developed. And there are, of course, great habits and patterns, but there are also challenging patterns which basically draw you back, which have to do with failure. Then we go to mission, purpose. What creates a sense of meaning for you? This sounds like a difficult question, but why do you get out of bed every morning? Why do you get to your job? And don't say, and if you say, I'll have to earn my money, then I can tell you that the company probably within a certain time will have a problem with you. You need to be passionate. You need to work where your purpose is. And this is a discovery for people, and people really appreciate this process. Then we look at values, personal values, and what values support you, your purpose, and keep you on track. And then we look at vision. Where do you want to be in 5 to 10 years from now? And in most of the workshop, we always say, these are your personal purpose, values, and vision. What are the purpose, values, and vision from the company, and how do they connect? Because if there is no connection, it will not work. Then in the last phase, we look at barriers. What stops you to realize your vision? And as you know, some of you might have done this kind of workshop before, and the outcome quite often ends up in the drawer. But why does it end up in the drawer? And what would stop you to realize your personal vision? And then we end up with an action plan, which we will have followed up in a peer-to-peer coaching relationship. So this is very simply how we do a workshop. But I can guarantee you it gives you 80% of the effect. Because in the end, what you look at is you look at this leading self. You look at the employee himself. You show as leadership that you're interested in personal development, and people, you give them, as Beatrice called it, and I like that very much. I will steal that from her skills for life. But these are real skills for life. The general appreciation for this kind of workshop is 4.8, 4.9 on a scale of 5. People really like that and appreciate that, and it gives a completely different culture in a company. So my message, to summarize it and to close it off, is think inside out. Close the back door and do it by focusing on leading self. And by that, you automatically will also open the front door and you will attract more people. So thanks a lot, and looking forward to your questions. Daniel.
Thank you, Andre. I think we have one question. How do you prepare for the steps that as a company we need to do after our employees make this effort of self-discovery? We need to be ready to support, reskill them, offer new job opportunities. I think is the first question, and we have another one.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Yeah, very good question. And I like it because let me say that we are not the only consultancy company who offers opportunities like this. In what we say is it should come out of peer-to-peer coaching. So what we do in the workshop, we will connect two people, and that doesn't have to be people from the same department or from the same unit, who constantly will follow up together on their action plan. So there is this connection with peer-to-peer coaching. In other companies, we do maybe 1 or 2 coaching calls with the concerned employees, but that is of course very costly. But in general, I would say this peer-to-peer coaching, although in the beginning I was also quite skeptical about it, it really works. It really works. The whole company, if you have been together in this workshop and you share that, you will profit from this peer-to-peer coaching. So peer-to-peer coaching is what helps a lot. And of course, we are expecting from especially the learning and development manager to also take this kind of knowledge in other programs. And I have to, on top, I have to say that, for example, in the Metro Group where I worked, we started with this. We have done 60,000 people and we had around 80 trainers. So the program is very simple for train the trainer. So we have very good train the trainers, which basically means you also train all kinds of ambassadors.
Thank you. Another question, what can leaders do to better motivate their talent during the pandemic?
Yeah, so what I, in general, I think that is very clear. Some employees disappear. And that sounds very strange, but you don't see them showing up anymore, and you see them disappearing. And I think that in general is the biggest challenge, but is also the responsibility of a leader to keep everybody on board. I think what is the misunderstanding that by having a team meeting that you can keep your people together, I think you should not forget the individual element. So what I think is at least 1 time a week, have a one-to-one meeting with the concerned employees, because only in that way you keep them emotionally on board. And that is, I think, most important. You have to connect them to them. You have to ask them, where do they struggle with? So yeah, I would say that is the most important thing.
And the last one, what should the new era of leadership look like?
Yeah. This is one of this is the theme I have talked about a lot. But we basically say that for leaders there are 4 things in VUCA times which are important. And I started with this theory I think 5 years ago, and we still are preaching it. We say that leaders should be self-reflective in order to deal with the current situation. People should have a vision, so they should be visionary. They should be connected to the inside world, so in the company and outside of the company, and they should be agile. They should be able to adjust their behavior. If you want to read more about that, go to the website leadership-academy-amsterdam.com, and there is more information about it.
Thank you very much, Andrea. I think this was the last question.
Okay, it was a pleasure. Thank you all for listening, and wish you a great conference.
Thank you, and see you soon.
See you soon.